Shalom, my dear family, Korean family in the Lord. And I truly mean that. We want to congratulate you on your 10th anniversary and thank you for all the support you have been to us. When we met Brad Kim and his team, we were very low state after the bomb incident. But Brad Kim came with his team and really lifted up, just became an arm to us we could hold on to. So we want to thank you for all this time, especially now during the war. You've been moral support, financial support, and it's just been fantastic. So we want to congratulate BradTV for the beautiful, tremendous work that God has given them.
We met probably in 2008, and we've known each other ever since. We've had a close relationship with BradTV Ministries. It has been glorious. The documentary that was made concerning persecution of believers, Messianic Jews in Israel, was fantastic and brilliant, as are all the documentaries that are produced through BradTV Ministries. Thank you for being a source of truth and justice in the media for Israel. Thank you for being our very good friends, and like David said, a very strong support, not only for us, but for the ministries in Israel and for Israel itself. And congratulations from the bottom of our hearts, and we pray for at least 10 more years of success and ministry for all of you. In Yeshua's name. God bless you, and God bless Korea in the name of Yeshua, our Messiah. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
So happy birthday, 10 years to BradTV and to all our brothers and sisters in Korea. I want to bless you from Jerusalem, from Israel, from Joseph Magen, from All Israel News and Keilah News. And we say in Hebrew, Yom Huledet Sameach, 10 Shanim, happy birthday, 10 years, BradTV.
After this upcoming presidential debates, after the discussions of the political pundits, and after all the arguments around the kitchen tables, right? This election is really going to boil down to one issue. I know they will talk about a lot of issues, and you'll get way off into the weeds, and but at the end of the day, it's all going to boil down to globalism versus national sovereignty. Joe Biden's a globalist. Anybody, let's say they pull Joe Biden out tomorrow. Now, I know in the news you're reading that I'm going to run in. Nobody, if you want to challenge me at the convention. It's all in the news today. But the thing is anybody that they would replace Joe Biden with, he's going to be an establishment figure. That's how it's going to run, or they'll never get in. They won't even let him to come close. Again, Donald Trump getting in, that was a complete anomaly. And now that they know what he'll do when he gets in office, they're going to do the next 4 months is going to be crazy. You wait and see. They will do everything they can. They're going to pull out all the stops to keep Donald Trump from ever getting back in office. Now, we'll see what happens. It's going to be very interesting. It's going to be like no presidential election you've ever been a part of. We're already there. The first debate showed us that. Okay, Gatestone Institute. They published an article, Who's Running the Country? Well, I pulled some excerpts, and then I want to make a few comments on this, because that's the big question here. Who's running the country? The article says this. I'm quoting from the article, and then we'll get into some conversation, but I want to introduce you to the term turn politics, not T-E-R-M as in Mary, term politics, but turn, T-U-R-N as in Nancy, politics, turn politics. You may never have heard about that before. What I want to introduce you to that in this article. The 2016 presidential election was expected to come down to, to Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton. But, of course, Donald Trump disrupted that expectation, right? And he shook the entire political establishment. In 2020, it was Joe Biden's turn, not because of his abilities, but due to his long tenure in politics. And he had been groomed. I mean, he was the vice president of Barack Obama for 8 years. He was groomed for this position, not because he was super qualified, but because it was his turn. Now in 2024, Biden's candidacy is again based on the notion of it being simply it's his turn again, despite his lack of perceived excellence, right? I mean, Biden's recent debate performance has alarmed all of Democrats who now face the dilemma of potentially having to replace him, and a move that complicated by the entrenched political network that supports him. And the political network is what I want to focus on. So it's this turn system, T-U-R-N, make sure we get that right. This turn system that has been working for a very, very, very long time, decades now. It becomes somebody's turn. They've been groomed. Now it's your turn. This turn system, it's not unique to Democrats. Republicans have also nominated candidates based on sovereignty rather than merit. And it's leading to a lot of voter frustration and the eventual rise of when Donald Trump got in, right? So I think everyone needs to understand the term turn politics. And for those of you who don't, you should. So let me explain it to you. And the Gaystone Institute, they give a very good definition, because I really want you to understand what's going on in America right now, because it has to do with Bible prophecy and the coming one world government. We don't want this here in America, folks. Something's got to change, right? And a lot of us are saying that, but man, you just think it's impossible, but it's not impossible. Don't ever take God out of the equation. A lot of people have taken God out of this equation of the election and thinking, well, we're just at the mercy of the establishment. And listen, God is so much more powerful than any of this. And so we want to make sure that at the end of the day, I want God's will to be done. That's what we want. I'm praying God's will. If it's God's will that Joe Biden get back in, then that's what I want. Now, I would have to someday ask God, why in the world did you do that? But anyway, I'm just telling you, we'll just have to see. I would have to have a conversation with the Lord over that one. But at the end of the day, I want what God's will is, because you never go wrong by doing what's right. And if you follow God's will and are led by the Spirit of God, hey, you're always going to come out on the right side. But let's get off into this turn politics. Turn politics, it mostly still rules. Candidates past their prime, they go up to bat because they have the biggest networks. Now, this is how the system works. Listen closely. They'll become a candidate and they'll get in position because they have the biggest networks of fellow politicians, donors, party activists. You can get somebody in, think about this. You can get somebody as a president of the United States. They've never held a public job. They've never been part of the military. They say they're a patriot, but what have they really done for the country? But yet they become president of the United States. Now, how does that work? You ever ask yourself that? How in the world did that guy get in to be president? They've never really done anything. The guy's never held a public job. But he become president of the United States? It's all about the system. Think of it like this. So it's as if a Major League Baseball player, or I should say, let's say Major League Baseball, favored players on the basis of seniority and how well they networked, not based on the fact that they were hitting 70 home runs a year. Okay? Not based on their performance or what they brought to the table, but because they were a good networker. Okay? Now think about a baseball team being ran like that. You would think, why in the world is that guy batting in the number 4 spot? Think about this on a baseball team. Normally you got batters 1, 2, and 3. They're supposed to get on base. They're the best base hitters you got. And then you've got your cleanup batter. Batter number 4, he's supposed to come in and hit the home run and get everybody in, right? But imagine the manager of a baseball team saying, well, we're going to put so-and-so at position number 4, batter number 4. And everybody would say, he's never hit a home run in his entire life. And he would say, yeah, but he's a good networker. He's part of the Major League Baseball system, so we're going to put him as batter number 4. And everybody's looking around. All the rest of the players are looking around like, this place is nuts. He's never hit a home run, but we're putting his batter number 4. Now you understand turn politics. Regardless of whether the person has ever done anything, they've been groomed, they're good networkers, they've got a good support, and when it's their turn, they're going to be put up there. Why? Because they're not really the one that's going to run the thing. It's the system, the establishment that's going to be running everything. Okay? It's called turn politics. But unlike sports, politics isn't a meritocracy. It isn't even a democracy. It's an oligarchy. Okay? Voters self-importantly think of elections as the big political competition. But that's like judging companies based on the keynote addresses of their CEOs. Okay? Elections are the least important part of politics. Now, just hear me out here. Because we think, the American population has told us, hey, we've had a fair election. My father-in-law used to say, when it became a presidential election, that it was Tweedledee and Tweedledum. Maybe some of you have heard him say that over the years. But the establishment would get 2 of their people. One's a Democrat, one's a Republican. And you thought, man, our Republican won. And then we go right down the same path. And you think, what in the world just happened? Because they were an establishment guy, you guys. So elections, I hope that it's supposed to be ran by elections, but it seems like that went out the window years ago. Elections are the least important part of the politics to many people. All the really important parts of politics happen behind closed doors. I'm going to hold right here because I want to make sure you get these points. Because it's the system, the establishment that's running the things. The guy out in front, he's a talking head. Okay? So we want to make sure you know what's going on because we're in an election cycle here, and I'm trusting God in all of it that God's will be done on November 5th. But I want you to understand what's really going on here in America right now. All the really important parts of the politics are that happens behind closed doors. What politicians do is not run for office necessarily, but they network and they cut deals and they plan their careers. It's a career. You ever heard a career politician? Not necessarily getting there to help the people, but I want to be in politics for 50 years and all I'm geared towards is getting reelected. My constituents and all of my people I've cut deals with, and there's a lot hanging on me being in there for 40 years, right? So there are some very influential people that do all they can to keep that politician in there. So that network, which we, occasionally call by, it's almost an inadequate name like establishment or these DC insiders. That's the reason Joe Biden is up again for 2024, and why it's virtually impossible to get rid of him unless it's the 25th Amendment or something like that. And there are a lot of people talking about that 25th Amendment, and I'll talk about that here in just a moment if I can get there. But people who naively think that, Obama secretly is running the Biden administration, they don't understand the entire network and how it works. Obama took on Hillary when it was her turn in 2008. And he won and brokered a deal that moved the Democratic network, further leftward. And he did the same thing again in 2020, bringing in Bernie Sanders' people and Elizabeth Warren's people and his own people, so that the Biden administration is even more radical and extreme than his was. And his was extreme. But it's all about pushing the system and getting that. That's the most important thing. Which candidate, which person will push the system? But where did Obama come from? Well, he came out of that network of these radical activists, donors, government personnel now running the country. Obama wasn't a brilliant genius or a one-man dynamo. He was an activist lawyer, one of the tens of thousands of Ivy Leaguers who joined the political side of the network, who wanted to live out his egotistical ambitions. Okay? Now, I'm just telling you what this is what happened. This was his 8-year tenure. Of course, now he's still involved in the system. If you think he's not, it's because you're not following the news at all. But the leftist networks gave him the opportunity to do in exchange for seeding it deeper across the Democratic Party, the government, and the country. Then his time came. And the thing is, though, I don't want to say just Democrats, because there are Republicans who are, they say, rhino in name only, blah, blah, blah. They're simply establishments. The establishment has them on the Democrat side, the Republican side. It's just, all they are across the whole is globalist. They believe in pushing the system further down the road. How can we get the system's goals met? And so, whether they've got to have them on both sides so they can control the thing. This is what's been happening for decades, guys. So Obama did not want Biden to succeed him. He pushed Biden out in favor of Hillary and then tried to bring in this surprise candidate to run against him in 2020. But some things are sacred. And not even Obama, especially once out of the White House, could take away Biden's turn twice. Okay? What am I talking about? Turn politics. It's not really Biden's turn, though. It's the turn of the strategists, the people that have aligned themselves with Biden, the strategists, the lobbyists, the staffers, the donors, the allies of his, and more nebulous figures known as my friends, they say, whom Joe Biden accrued over, 40 plus years now. They've invested in his success, and they're profiting from it. They've got deals made, and they won't easily give up. You understand? Well, I want you to understand what's going on here. And I'm still going through some of the excerpts from this Gatestone Institute article. It was fabulous. But trying to replace Biden with, let's say, a Gavin Newsom, aside from the legal logistical issues, could be a clash of two networks that would require either careful negotiations, because there are people that support Gavin Newsom and there are people that are making money off of Joe Biden. So, quite the conundrum here, right? I mean, it's done all the time with primary rivals who become vice presidents or cabinet members, but displacing a sitting president who also won the nomination and has raised and spent a massive fortune, that would require a level of delicate negotiations akin to bringing peace to an African civil war or something like that. I mean, think about it. You've got a president here that is in cognitive decline. There comes a time when he can't talk right. But yet, he's our commander-in-chief of our military, folks. So, we got problems, especially if that president is unstable, prone to fits of anger, and is insulated by the same political allies whose wealth and power depend on Biden winning a second term in office. And it's not about Jill and Hunter Biden. A lot of people try to, these are diversions. Joe Biden has tens of thousands of political mouths to feed. Money has been collected and favors promised. People have bought homes in D.C. bedroom communities. Lobbyists have secured these big fat contracts, and donors have opened up their wallets. And replacing Biden with another candidate would upend a lot of D.C. I mean, he's the president of the United States. And, you know, it would put tens of billions of dollars in flux and create massive instability in this corrupt local economy. Much of D.C. would rather ride it out, right? Because if you've got to deal with Biden, you're going to see your guy continue, especially since the campaign people make such a ton of money, would lose such a ton of money if Biden loses. So you want to preserve the integrity of this network, this system, and all these pinky promises that allow special interests to buy influence without having to worry if their man will suddenly be swapped out. And so that is what his turn, or this turn politics, really means. People don't understand that they were baffled that Biden would run and that he would get the nomination. And after his disastrous debate showing that much of the party panicked and outsiders assumed that they would just dump Biden. But the truth is that they wish they could, but there's a lot of money in play here, a lot of deals, a lot of supporters. So what about the system? It's in a mess. And this turn politics, this corruption, once again threatens the survival of, they say, of their party. And yet they can't break away from it because parties are vehicles for career and cash. And the networks around powerful politicians build careers and they move money and, and those networks, they're running the country. Okay? Talking about this big system that's been moving for decades now. When people ask who's been running the country, after Biden's debate performance, the answer is that it's the same people who run most of the government and have all along for decades now. And so politics operates more as an oligarchy than a meritocracy, with key decisions and power dynamics occurring behind closed doors among networks and politicians, donors, activists. These networks are why Biden remains the candidate and why removing him would cause significant disruption. Now, I'm not saying they're not going to, but I'm saying every news station I'm listening to, this is all they're talking about. So I wanted to help you understand really what's going on. A lot of them are just talking about, they're focusing on Biden. And I'm like, look, I wish I could get on your program and explain to you, Biden is the puppet. Biden's the pawn out here. He's just been in politics so long and been groomed that it was his turn. Remember, Biden was the vice president of Obama, but yet Hillary Clinton is the one that ran against Trump. You remember? And so why didn't Joe Biden? Because it was Hillary's turn at that point. It's called turn politics. And so replacing Biden would require delicate negotiations within the party and risking destabilizing the established political and economic order in Washington, D.C. be quite the mess. And so a lot of people are talking about, you know, the 25th Amendment. You say, well, how does the 25th Amendment work? Well, under the amendment, a majority of the vice president and 15 principal officers of the president's cabinet can give their written declaration and finding the president unable to discharge the powers and the duties of the presidency. And that declaration would then be sent to House speakers and the Senate president, at which point the vice president would immediately assume the powers of the presidency. Now, imagine that today, if that were to happen. And that's according to Section 4 of the 25th Amendment. The president could then veto the cabinet's declaration and resume their position as president. Then the cabinet and vice president would have a 4-day window to decide whether or not to effectively override the president's objection, at which point Congress would have 48 hours to meet, and both the House and the Senate would need to vote on whether the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of the office. Both votes would require 2/3 majority. There are a lot of people talking about doing that as we speak. Now, the thing is, we're July 8th. The election is November 5. And they're saying, well, there's an unbelievably short window where a lot of people, we got to get a new candidate. You know, a lot of different things are happening. And they're talking about maybe a way to do that. So, man, the next few months is going to be crazy, everybody. But I wanted you to really understand what's going on because all the news stations are talking about it. Should Biden stay in? Should he get out? Well, there's a lot of dynamics that go into that. But always remember, it's not one man running it. It's a system. Unless you go against the establishment, then that's a whole other conversation. But I want you to know, but all of it is leading much of the world towards a world government prophesied in the Bible. God bless.